Microscopic Lust. Chapter 12. After the commotion since the morning that made Octavia's head ready to explode, she got out of the car with Amanda and Mr. Gorse. Helena had left early to make sure all her father's wedding preparations were under control and running as they should. Octavia understands that her plan and Helena to help each other today were cancelled after last night's incident. Octavia put on as much makeup as she could, but she still wore the black dress Helena had lent her to please Mr. Gorse. The girl could still defend Helena's negligence in front of her father for not waking Octavia. After all, Octavia woke up too late. Thanks to Helena for the kiss of death. Octavia could only sleep at 5 this morning. She woke up at 3 in the afternoon. And it took Octavia more than 30 minutes to cover the dark bags under her eyes. The wedding ceremony was celebrated and held in a garden, in the villa area with a beach background. The chairs were lined up neatly. The flowers had been arranged and placed in a good position. Not too pretentious, only close friends of Amanda and Gorse were invited. The difference between a new wealthy person or someone rich for a long time is evident here. It seemed the Gorses weren't very show-off people. They keep the money somewhere, which is not to be squandered at an event like this. The cliché blessing is over. The priest excused himself from leaving early after congratulating the newlywed and drinking a glass of red wine. After that, the real party will only begin. Octavia walked awkwardly through the crowd of strangers. Most likely Mr. Gorse's friend. The smell of expensive liquor wafts like bubbles. Octavia, who felt nervous and had no friends to chat with, decided to go to the toilet. Arriving in front of the toilet, Octavia looked in the mirror and fixed her hair makeup. The blessing ceremony was over, but she had not met Helena for a second. Octavia was worried if Mr. Gorse realized that her only daughter was not there. When Octavia heard a voice from inside the bathroom, she immediately felt curious. The girl saw a pair of feet in high heels from the hole under the door, the ends facing one foot against the other. Octavia immediately understood. Although it was none of her business, she was still interested in finding out who was in the cramped bathroom earlier. She slowly backed away from the toilet and waited not far away. And Octavia's wait has finally paid off. 10 minutes passed, and a woman with dreadlocks waltzed out of the toilet door. Ursula. The woman came out of the bathroom while tidying her clothes and hair. As soon as she looked around, her eyes immediately caught Octavia. Ursula smiled. Then behind her appeared another woman, who else but Helena. Octavia was shocked. Then the girl jumped out of bed. "Octavia, are you awake?" Helena's voice answered in response to the sound of a knock on the door. Octavia rubbed her eyes and then opened the door. "Is the marriage ceremony over? Am I late?" Octavia had not fully woken up from the dream. Helena laughed and shook her head as she handed her the pajamas that Octavia had left in Helena's bathroom last night. "It's still 10 in the morning, Octavia. Are you all right? Did Amanda's wedding give you nightmares?" Octavia looked at Helena's face. Her eyes, then her lips. Helena was already wearing makeup, and she looked just as beautiful if she wasn't. Octavia prefers Helena not to wear makeup. Octavia prefers to see her stepsister in a yukata. Immediately Octavia shook her head to dispel her impudent thoughts. "Oh, okay." Octavia accepted the pajamas Helena handed her. She tried to act normal. It was as if the events of last night were meaningless and didn't bother her. "Where are you going to the venue now?" Octavia feels betrayed. Helena doesn't wear a black dress as she promised. "No, I have to go away for a bit. I'll come back and dress you up later." She shoved her hands into the pockets of her tight jeans. "Take the car keys from there and play with it. I will still wear the black dress. Take it easy." She winked before leaving and making Octavia's cheeks red. By 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Octavia had finished bathing. She knocked on Helena's door because she thought her stepsister had arrived home. And when the door to Helena's room opened, Ursula was the person Octavia expected to appear there. "Hey!" Ursula opened the door for Octavia. Her expression changed. The student reflexively slapped her cheek. "Damn it, Octavia. What you see now is not a dream," Octavia screamed in her heart. Octavia endured the pain in front of Ursula so as not to feel even more embarrassed. Ursula stifled a laugh at Octavia's behavior. She furrowed her brows. "I didn't know you were a masochist," she said, watching her student. "So," said Octavia. "So?" Ursula repeated. "What are you doing here?" asked Octavia in a whisper. "What am I doing here? What are you doing here, Talaga?" Ursula asked. Then, Helena appeared from the stairs. "You guys have met, huh?" Helena then approached the two people. "Octavia, this is Ursula. Ursula, this is my stepsister Octavia." Octavia waited. Ursula waited. They were both too shocked. Coincidence is outrageous. "Ursula is my girlfriend. Yesterday I told you that I also have a girlfriend?" Helena said, which made Octavia think that the kiss was her idea. Octavia feels trapped. She questioned the contents of her head again. Maybe her kiss with Helena last night was her idea? Did she the one that started it? "It seems Ursula is also teaching at your campus, Octavia." "Is that right, Professor?" Helena wants confirmation. Both the lecturer and the student nodded in unison. In front of Helena, they both shook hands. "But please don't say anything about our relationship to my birth mother, Old Man Gors, or your mother." "It can't be," Helena anticipated. Octavia nodded, tucking a strand of wet hair behind her ear. Ursula leaned against the edge of the doorway and didn't stop smiling. "What's wrong with you?" Helena wants to know. Ursula shrugged. "She's in my class twice a week." Now Octavia knew Ursula's smile meant victory. "Because she didn't pass me twice," Octavia complained to her stepsister. Helena looked at Ursula. "Is that true?" "Why don't you pass her, Ursula?" Helena asked disapprovingly. Hey, relax, let what happens on campus stay on campus." Ursula wants to wash her hands. Family and college matters can't be mixed up like that. Octavia occasionally looked at Ursula. She was interested in the bruises on her neck of the professor. But then again, that's none of Octavia's business. She just felt weird because the girl was sure that the bruise was not on Ursula's neck yesterday afternoon. Helena is on her knees. "Okay, but you're going to graduate her this year, right?" "I don't know. Why is that?" Ursula wanted to hear what her girlfriend had to say. "Because you'll be in trouble with me if she doesn't pass again," Helena said as she walked into her room. This time both Octavia and Ursula heard the seriousness of the sentence. Microscopic Lust. Chapter 13. Octavia then followed Helena into her room. Ursula sat leaning on the edge of the bed, reading a book. Helena pulled her dresser chair and motioned for Octavia to sit there. The clumsy Octavia obeyed Helena's words. She sat down. She patiently let Helena polish all kinds of textures on her face. Octavia didn't say much. Now and then, she responds to Helena's talk about makeup, Octavia's skin type, or the brand of cosmetics she usually wears. Sometimes she stole glances at Ursula. Octavia still couldn't understand the coincidence. She knows that Helena works at the Gors company, and Ursula is a lecturer. In what kind of opportunity could they meet? How long have they been together? How long had Helena and Ursula kept their relationship under wraps? Was Helena causing the bruises on Ursula's neck? Sometimes, if Octava were caught looking at her teacher, Ursula would look back at her. Then, quickly Octava would avert her eyes. Now, it's finished. Helena took 2 steps back to judge her handiwork on Octava's face. She asked Ursula's opinion. "Honey, take a look, what do you think?" Ursula put down her book. She looked at Octava. She squinted her eyes. "Good. Octava is so beautiful." "Octava is already attractive and beautiful," Helena muttered. "Well, now I'm going to change." Helena then went into the bathroom. Ursula was still looking at Octava with her sharp brown eyes. Seeing that, Octava became embarrassed. She was about to run away from the 2 tigresses in this room when Helena screamed from inside the bathroom. "Ursula, can you help me?" Ursula turned towards the bathroom and followed her girlfriend. She closed the door and faced Helena, who, instead of wearing a dress, Helena was wearing nothing. "What can I do for you?" Ursula smiled at her girlfriend. She touched her finger to Helena's smooth waist. "There's so much you can do to help me." "You are so naughty. Your stepsister is waiting outside." Ursula hugged Helena from behind. "Therefore, help me quickly. So that we don't have to keep her waiting," Helena whispered in Ursula's ear. "I don't want to spoil your makeup, Helena." Ursula was still undecided. She was tempted, but she didn't want Octava to hear them. After all, Octava was her student. What if the girl complains about her in the campus? "Just a moment," Helena cooed, guiding Ursula's finger into the folds of her skin. "Wet," Ursula whispered while holding her breath. "What if my student gets suspicious?" Helena is getting more and more insistent. "She wouldn't dare report you." "Calm down, throw away your fears and serve me." "Okay, but do it quickly, okay?" Ursula turned Helena to face the wall. She parted her girlfriend's leg and stuck her finger in. HMPH. Helena restrained herself from screaming. Ursula's other hand reached for Helena's lips and closed them. "This is what you want? Is this what you want, Helena?" Ursula hissed. Helena nodded. She could not speak. She had to be silent so as not to scream. Her hands rested on the ceramic wall in front of her. In a moment, Ursula pulled her finger out. She took Helena's hands behind her back and forced Helena to lean on the sink. Then Ursula did it again until Helena's body bounced off the porcelain table. Helena was about to reach the top when Octava knocked on the door. "Shit," Ursula whispered frantically. "Yes?" asked Helena, trying to get used to her breathing, though Ursula didn't stop torturing her girlfriend with pleasure. "I'm going back to my room," Octava said again. "Okay. Meet me later in the dining room." "We'll be finished in a minute." Helena quickly covered her mouth because she had arrived. "Wear your dress," Ursula continued. "Yes," replied Octava. Then the sound of her footsteps drifted away. Just then, there was the sound of the door closing. Ursula washed her hands in the sink. "Do you think she knows? Do you think she would be disgusted by us?" Helena, who was sitting in the closet, shook her head. "She's not like that. I can see that Octava is a girl who is good at keeping secrets. We'll be fine. But she's 22. Explained Ursula, who was still worried about her credibility as a lecturer. She loved what had just happened. She just felt it was unethical. Helena then approached Ursula and hugged her lover. "Calm down. You and your credibility will be fine. Now, I will relax you more." Helena squatted in front of Ursula. She stuck one of her girlfriend's legs on the sink. "What makes you so hot, Helena?" Ursula asked with a sigh. "If I say you won't believe it," Helena screamed in her heart. Octava was on the phone when Ursula and Helena came down the stairs. Octava stood with her back to them and seemed oblivious that two other women were already sitting on the sofa. "Yeah, but you never said you were going to take a short semester." "I know, last holiday we didn't get to meet at all." "At least you let me know, right?" "No, Luna, I found out from Tony yesterday." Octava paused for a moment. "Yes, I have one subject to repeat. Even if I catch a short semester, yes, I know." The girl turned around and saw Ursula and Helena had been sitting behind her for some time. Luna. I have to go. We'll talk again." Octava hung up the phone. "Since when are you guys behind me?" "Look, Ursula. Octava can't graduate quickly because you didn't pass her from your class twice." Helena stood up and scolded her girlfriend. Ursula chased after the sulky Helena. Octava followed the two women into the garage. "It's not Ursula's fault, Helena." Octava felt guilty. If Helena and Ursula got into a fight, it must be because of her. However, Helena didn't seem very interested in hearing anyone's explanation. She unlocked the car from afar and straight into the driver's seat. "Who told you to sit in the front?" Helena snapped at Ursula. "Helena, don't make this a big problem," Ursula coaxed. "Me and Octava's business on campus should not be brought into private." Helena looked at her girlfriend in bewilderment. Her brows furrowed almost together. "Ursula, she is my stepsister, and this is her mother and my father's wedding. Let her sit in the front." "So, it's not because of Octava's value in my class?" asked the frightened Ursula. Helena shook her head. "That's your business as a teacher. Now hurry out and tell Octava to sit up front. I don't want to be late, and I don't want old man Gorse to complain about anything today." Ursula stroked her chest in relief. She smiled widely. "I love you, Helena." Ursula got down from the car. She opened the door for Octava, and Ursula sat in the back. "Ready?" Helena asked, sounding softer than 5 seconds ago. "Yes," Octava said, scared. Helen glanced at Ursula, who was smiling while looking out the window. "Okay. Put on your seatbelts. Because now we're going to Gorse's humble wedding," said Helena as she pulled her car out of the garage and drove to her father's wedding venue.